Awesome. Welcome to this Thinking Fast and Wise with AI session. I'm going to start by talking about designated drivers. This has been referred to by Rory Sutherland as the greatest import from Scandinavia to America. The story is in the 1980s, drink driving incidences at America was really high, and the government and a few agencies wanted to step in and see if they could run any interventions to change behavior and to reduce drink driving. So Howard Public School of Health formed an unlikely partnership with a few studios in Hollywood, and they ran these campaigns of inserting designated driver into people's everyday vocabulary. And if you saw any TV shows from the late 80s and early 90s like Cheers and LA Law, what you would have seen is the use of the term designated driver, especially in Cheers when maybe the bartender, Woody, if I remember right, would ask, "Who's your DD for the night?" It normalized the term designated driver. And that's the power of language. And that had got me thinking about the journey of how do we codify some of the language which we have from behavioral science, design, systems thinking into a way that can be shared with others so that it's easily accessible. The pattern language is an organized and coherent set of patterns, each of which describes a problem and the core of a solution that can be used in many ways within a specific field of expertise. A pattern language can also be an attempt to express the deeper wisdom of what brings aliveness within a particular field of human endeavor through a set of connected patterns. People can use this design approach to successfully solve very large, complex design problems. Pattern language has taken me down this journey of creating my own pattern language in behavioral science. One of the challenges in the field of behavioral science is it's called science and not everyone loves science. So I've been working on this concept around 2019 of breaking down all the complex language that we have in behavioral science into a pattern language which can be easily understood, digested, and shared. And I had taken this concept into the field. So I have, over the last 6 years, I've tested out this pattern language for behavioral science in many different contexts. Over 600 people in our public sector in New Zealand use terms like social norms and confirmation bias and availability bias in their everyday solving for decision making. Has allowed the pattern language for behavioral science to become more accessible and also allow people to use them to solve complex design challenges. So the challenge that I had in mind is, can I do the same for AI? Can I create a pattern language for us to be able to think more creatively, to think quicker, but also to think wiser with AI? So that took me in this journey of starting to codify what might the pattern language for speaking to the AI look like. And I had 3 prompting patterns, one around thinking, and there are different forms of thinking, each which I call a mental model. So there's divergent, convergent, and there's context. You can see this is a very rough working prototype, which I had a few months back. It's not necessarily about coming up with more ideas or faster ideas. It's also allowing space to pause and reflect. So a pre-mortem, for example, can allow the AI to point out what might go wrong before we run an intervention. It may surface some unintended consequences. I had tested out some of these prompting patterns. So I've run 2 AI courses this year, sharing some of these prompting patterns. And I've got feedback from participants, which helps me figure out which are the prompts which are most useful and which are the prompts which are not that useful for the AI. So following running those 2 courses, I've doubled down on some of these prompts, and I'll share some of them today. So under the think category or the idea generation category, you may have seen diverge and converge. That's worked really well in many different contexts. And I try to break each of these mental models of divergence and convergence into very specific prompting cards that we could take to the AI. And I'll demonstrate a few of them with you now. This is kind of what it looks like. The idea is to make prompts more accessible so that we are able to unlock clearer thinking with AI, but also deeper and wiser thinking with the AI. Cool. So the 3 prompting cards you'll see over here are the quantity of your ideas is greater than the quality of ideas. This comes from Stanford Design School's Jeremy Utley has written a book called Idea Flow. And pushing the AI to come up with more ideas means that you have a better set to choose from. And also you're able to get ideas which are not necessarily average ideas. You end up with a more diverse range of ideas. Perspective play is about role playing, asking AI to take a first person, a second person, or a third person narrative, and asking AI to evaluate which of the 3 narratives are the most effective. Analogical thinking is about taking insights from different fields. So we can take insights from nature, for example. Biomimicry may be a viable solution in some cases. We can also look at high performance sports, athletes. We can look at a whole range of different contexts to see if that can lend inspiration to the challenge that we have at hand. So if you have a problem statement or how might we, put it into the chat and let's test out how AI solves your problem statement with and without these prompting patterns. I'm going to take the first one, which I have over there, about raising funds as a charity for the kindergarten. So I'll very rogue A/B test. So I have one ChatGPT window over here, and I'm going to type that in. Now I have to warn you that ChatGPT knows that I am a behavioral designer, and it is going to reply more like a behavioral designer. Your ChatGPT will be influenced by how you talk to ChatGPT. So you can see some ideas about making it tangible. It already has some of this language of social norms. So it's been trained on my 24 pathways for behavior change. And you can see some of the ideas like leverage reciprocity, and it's given about 5 pretty good ideas, I'll say. But going by Jeremy Utley's principle, the quality of your ideas essentially depends on the quantity of ideas you have. Because none of these ideas which ChatGPT came up with has been tested in the field, a better proxy for a good idea is not the quality of the idea, but how many ideas you're generating. So let's see what that looks like in this other option. I'm going to copy paste that over here. Cool. You'll see many more ideas have come through. Hopefully ChatGPT followed the instructions and came up with 20 different ideas. And you can see like an idea like a rent-a-toy library, for example, offering a rotating library of quality toys for a small fee. We're pushing ChatGPT to come up with ideas it typically may not have come up with as a result of pushing ChatGPT to come up with a wider range or category of ideas. I'm going to take another prompting card and another challenge that I might have. So encourage greater use of reusable cups in air travel. There we go. Now it's breaking down. Again, ChatGPT is thought to think like a behavioral scientist. So it's looking at reducing friction. It's using norms again, making things timely. Again, fairly predictable ideas, and these are ideas which you would expect ChatGPT to come up with. Let's use perspective play to see if ChatGPT does any better. So I'm going to take this prompt card, I'm going to copy the prompt. So within this prompt, ChatGPT is either going to answer directly, it's going to assume a PhD level expertise, or it's going to take a third person perspective and simulate a conversation between 2 people. And then it's going to rate how confident how useful each of these answers are from a 0 to 100%. I have an example out there. This one's from a preprint paper, so it's not yet been published, but there has been some evidence from this preprint paper that this strategy of getting ChatGPT to do ratings is effective. So that's the inspiration behind this. So I'm going to open a temporary chat, paste it in. I'm going to paste the context in there. And now you'll see ChatGPT comes up with 3 different answers. One, it gives its direct useful answer, its PhD level answer, so it's thinking like a PhD level behavioral science and sustainability expert. And then it simulates a conversation between 2 people who have different perspectives. And they kind of have a debate with each other, but that debate surfaces some kind of insight. And each of these ideas has a usefulness rating. So it's rated the PhD level answer at 95% confidence that this is the most useful answer. We can pick and select which of these answers we think is most useful, but ChatGPT also gives us a rating based on that. Cool, awesome. Mindful of time, I'm going to pause over there and I'm going to showcase where I'm going with this work in progress piece. What I do have in mind is I am putting a lot of these ideas into a specific unit. So I'm collating 27 of these types of prompts into a prompt pack called Thinking Fast and Wise with AI.
If you're ready to start thinking fast and wise with AI, get free access to these 3 evidence-based prompt cards on Notion. Check out the first link in the description below.